So this week I've been dealing a lot with clients on inheritance issues, and I just thought it'd be good to do a little video and kind of give you some information, some things to think about when you're dealing with inheritance. So one of the issues that came up this week was inherited IRAs, and there's a lot of confusion about what's going on with inherited IRAs. So I just thought I'd put a couple little things in this video to talk about inherited IRAs, and then I'll finish up with just a couple of things to think about when you're getting ready to deal with loved ones and inheritance issues that can come up before they pass. Actually, that came up in one of my conversations this week. So with inherited IRAs, in 2020, there was a change in the rules. And what that states is that you have 10 years to basically get the money and to take all the money out, essentially. So if there's $100,000, you have 10 years to take the money out of the inherited IRA and pay the tax and use it. You can reinvest it. You can do whatever you need to do with it. But that's the new rule from 2020. And there were some confusing things that kind of came up from this conversation. So I thought I'd share some of them with you. So one of the things that came up is, when does that 10 years start? Does it start when I take possession of the money or when my loved one had passed? And it starts from when your loved one passes. So sometimes it can take some time in order for you to get, to take the trust, have the executor, deal with what they're dealing with. That's a very difficult job. So trying to get everything sorted with trusts, it can take a while. It could be a year before you do that. So by the time you get it, it might be a year into your 10-year period. So that's something of note that you should know about. Now, can you take a little bit out each year? Yes. Can you take it all at year 10? Yes. Can you take it all year 1? Yes. You can do it however you want. One thing, though, to keep in mind, which our back office gave me some great information, and this was something that I hadn't really even considered for this client. If your loved one was taking their required minimum distributions, or RMDs, you still have to take those out every single year. So if your, let's say, mother passed on an IRA to you, so it's become an inherited IRA, and she was taking RMDs, you still have to take the RMDs out at the level that you are, that she was taking it out. So if she was having to take out 5%, you still have to take 5 1/4 or whatever the new rate is for the new year. So you're on her required minimum distribution schedule. So that is the minimum you have to take out every year. But again, within that 10-year span from the time she passed, you need to take the full amount out and deal with the taxes. The other question that came up that I thought was really, really interesting is, one of the people that inherited an IRA is 16. She's not of age yet. And so how do we deal with that? So her 10-year span starts when she turns 18. Okay. So from 18 to 28, she has 10 years to take that money out. Now, it's not going to be held in her name until that time. Even if there's rules, like there were rules like she had to be a certain age in order to get that money in the trust. So, a family member can hold on to that for her. However, it is best practice probably to put that in a separate inherited IRA account so that it's not commingled with whatever you inherited, because that way you can keep up with gains. There's a trail, there's trail of reports and things. You just want to keep things clean. So best practice would be to put it into a separate inherited IRA, even if it's not in the name of the child who inherited it. So at age 18, she will start her 10-year span that she has to take that money out. So those are just some interesting things that I had not heard, or hadn't run across. So I thought maybe other people might find that interesting. The last thing I just wanted to end on is that oftentimes I get clients who come and talk to me about their elderly parents and issues that they're coming up with. dealing with their trust, dealing with maybe people who've come into the picture that are just kind of using parents for money, not other siblings, but strangers sometimes. And different things like that, issues that come up. And oftentimes I have clients being very hesitant to talk to me about it because I think they feel that they are being selfish or that they are being money hungry by talking to me about this stuff. This is part of your planning. And so it affects you. And so essentially, if you are not dealing with these issues with your loved one now while they're alive and understanding where things are and what they want, it is going to be very painful for you when that loved one dies. Not only are you dealing with the death of that loved one, but you are dealing with not having clarity of what they wanted or what things were going on. And so oftentimes, we have this idea that if we have a trust in place, we need to set and forget it. That's totally fine. It's a trust in place. It's fine. However, I really think it's a good idea to have your loved one have it reviewed and possibly be in the room, especially if you're the executor of the trust. It's a good idea to know what's in the trust. I've had clients that their parents have passed and they get the inheritance and it's a totally different trust. So it has different rules and different things. It wasn't really an appropriate trust anymore. And it caused tax consequences on their children that I'm sure that they wouldn't have wanted. And even, more recently, I had a client that had a certain type of trust. And I said, I think it's good to go to a estate planning attorney, to a professional, and see if this is still the right kind of trust for you. And it wasn't, and they needed to redo it. And it was very good that we got that done. So reviewing your trust and making sure that it's still the right kind of trust for you is the right thing to do, because these laws change all the time. I mean, look at the Inherited IRA rules. It used to be stretch and you could be, use it forever. And now you only have 10 years. It can be very complicated. So this kind of thing is important to discuss with your financial professional, with your estate planning attorney and your other professionals that you use, because if you don't have a handle on what's going on with your loved ones, you could be in a real pickle and it can affect you stress-wise, but be monetarily. So it can be affecting your plan in a negative way, not just the inheritance that we're all thinking is going to put us in a better place. It might down the line, but it could cause some real headaches if we don't take a look at it. So don't feel ashamed for having conversations with loved ones, with professionals about inheritance, about legacy moving to the next generation. That can be a very hard transition and a tricky process. And it is part of your financial planning. And you are not selfish for having that conversation. So if you have any questions, you can always come to us at One Vision Retirement. We are happy to help and guide you to the right professionals that you need to have in your backyard, in your pocket, essentially. One Vision Retirement, your retirement in 2020 vision.